Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Assetto Corsa Competizione. We are here for the Asfalt ACC NM 2024 Championship. It is round two here at Zandvoort, and I'm joined in the commentary box once again by Ashley Denman, who is with me in the box, giving us his professional pronunciation, seeing as he lives so close to this Norwegian, to Norway, should I say, as a... I'm going to struggle with a few of these like we did last week. Ashley, pleasure to be back in the box with yourself. It's going to be an absolutely cracking night tonight. We're at this fantastic, famous Zandvoort circuit. Obviously, it's the old school style as well, without the banking at turn 3, but it's going to provide a bit of drama and a bit of action.
Yeah, certainly should do. Some of these corners, there are a few different lines you can sort of take into entry and, of course, on the exit, so it should shake up the strategies a little bit for some of these guys out there, particularly when trying to overtake and get past. And you mentioned, of course, yes, I do live fairly close to Norway, but I hope you've brushed up on your Dutch, because some of the corner names around here can be a little bit tricky to pronounce as well, but we'll give it a go as the evening progresses on. We're in here for qualifying to begin with and see where these guys line up on the grid. To me, qualifying is quite important around here, because similar to Brands, it is fairly difficult to overtake. It's a high downforce circuit, so not a lot of straights around Zandvoort here. So overtaking might be a bit tricky, but key corners, turn 1 and then turn 10, 11, 12, those are your best chances to try and make a move.
they are the best chances to try and make a move. And it's going to be fascinating to see in this qualifying session track space. Now, we are only limited to the 14 drivers at the moment tonight. We are a bit shorter on the grid than what we was last time out, but that track space is key around this circuit. You don't want to be getting in the dirty air of the car in front, especially if you're following the great big Bentley or BMW M4, and you want to make sure you get that fast lap in. We are into that qualifying session at the moment, and here is Alan Drake Cruz, currently out there on a lap. I don't believe we saw Alan out there last time around. Oh, we are in the free practice session, apologies. So we're also in the free practice session at the moment, so qualifying should be getting underway momentarily. But either way, a few names on this list that I don't remember seeing out there last time out. So it's going to be interesting to see what some of these new drivers can do, as Erdegaardsten there looks like he's running a different livery this weekend, so that's not going to make things confusing at all. But it looks like he's running a bit more of a proper livery. You see the badges on the screen and the flag on the top of the roof of the car, so some nice liveries and decals that we have for you around the circuit. But Zandvoort, really, really famous, really, really tricky to get right. And obviously we asked the question last week and we got told the answer. We are running the balance of performance system, the BOP, in this series, which is run by the low fuel motorsport people who do the BOP system for Assetto Corsa Competizione. And at the minute, we're looking at the McLaren 720S Evo on the screen at the moment. That will gain 12 kilograms for this circuit. So, Ashley, round here, it's going to be really difficult with that extra 12 kilograms of weight to try and get that car set up right and carry that speed through the corners. Like I say, a lot of corners around here, very tight and twisty. An extra 12 kilograms of weight, you're going to feel that.
Yeah, you certainly are. It's effectively, it's called a bit of ballast, isn't it? A bit of extra weight. And I think a lot of these guys, they might be able to choose if it was real life, but I think for the virtual world here, it's just sort of lumped in the car. It's added weight overall. So I don't know how it will affect the cars in that sort of way too much, but a bit of extra weight, you tend to find that it might wash out a little bit more than they would like. But crucially, setup is still going to be key, even with the added weight. Of course, the BOP there is in effect to help bring these cars more in line with one another, to make the racing action even closer for the fans and the spectators out there. So it should add to the spectacle really, rather than take away, but the drivers have to factor that in.
Yeah, they do. And what the balance of performance is, for those who are unfamiliar, like Ashley's just said, it is like a ballast, an extra weight given to the car, not the driver. And it's to try and get that closer racing, like Ashley said, and bring kind of all cars into the playing field, which is why, if you remember back to Brands Hatch, we saw the Bentley, which on the Assetto Corsa Competizione is one of the older cars compared to the BMW and the Ferrari and the McLaren and Lamborghini. That's why the Bentley seems so strong, because of its BOP. It's managed to lose a bit of weight. Here, for example, it loses the full maximum 40 kilograms, and that's why the Bentley is sort of now in competition and a bit more of a car to choose. Just seeing some times come on the screen there, and if you look at that again, look, the top 6/10 of a second, we are in for an absolute belter of a night.
Yeah, it certainly should be. Solberg was the pilot there last time out. He's currently running in P6 at the moment. Have we confirmed, is this qualifying yet, or is this still at the end of free practice? Okay, well, we're confirming then this is the end of free practice then at the moment, so hopefully we'll see how qualifying goes shortly. But as Matthew's already mentioned, the time's looking pretty close out there, so hopefully qualifying should produce quite a spectacle, shall we say, and hopefully get everyone nice and close on the grid in terms of pace, and that should produce a great race for us as well.
Yeah, hopefully it will indeed, as the session does now end and we can now go straight into that qualifying session. And this is now going to be the crucial thing here. Drivers may feel they should wait a little bit in the pit lane and come out a little later onto the racetrack, to just maybe create that bit of a gap and get that bit of room. Only the 14 drivers, but still, you do not want to be in the dirty air of cars around this circuit, and you do not want to be getting held up by a slower driver in front that may impede your lap or affect your lap as they are coming round. And as I say that, we've got a Bentley, a BMW and a McLaren that have just ignored everything and gone racing straight out the box in this qualifying session on the outlap. And we're looking back here from Elias Fernando in a lovely mint green and black liveried McLaren. Looking back, you see them two, and he's in the best position here because clean air for him. That BMW is going to feel the effects of the McLaren, and the Bentley behind is going to feel the effects of both of them, I assume, at sector 3. they're going to drop off the back of each other and just create at least about a 5 or 6 second gap to the car in front to give themselves that breathing room they're going to need.
Yeah, you'd absolutely hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge for them. I mean, maybe they might try and steal a little bit of slipstream down the start-finish straight, but equally at the same time, you don't want to be too close because, as you just mentioned, you do pick up that dirtier. It makes turning in all that much harder. You get a bit more understeer. So I'm sure we'll see that very soon. You got this trio here. I think in the back shot there, you might see another car just come around. I think there was a little gaggle there as well, as Fernando has decided to relegate himself to the back of that little pack. And here's Brenham, last week's winner. Let's see if he can reproduce the magic touch that he had as he starts his first flying run.
And it was a great win for Brenham, if you remember last week, 2 weeks ago, sorry. It was done on the strategy and a fantastic drive from the BMW driver out there to take that victory. As he starts the first flying lap then around this Zandvoort circuit. Through turn 1, you come to this little left-hand kink into turn 2, now the right-hander. Go to the left, try and bring it back to the middle of the circuit as you want to keep it sort of relatively nice and tight to the apex as he comes through turn 3, up and over the crest, then downhill. You've got these little left and right handers coming up flat out through the whole of them. This is a real tricky section of the circuit because as you come over the crest of this hill, you're hitting the brakes a little bit just to come through this sweeping right hander, and again over another crest, downhill, turning left, hitting the brakes to come back right. It's very tricky, Zandvoort, isn't it? And as you can see there, completely ruined his lap time, took too much speed through the corner, clips the wall, into the wall harder. That's going to be a return back to the pit lane, and he's going to have to go again.
Yeah, as you were mentioning there, and quite evidently shown by Brenham as well, it is quite a tricky section. There's a lot of corners that probably feel a bit off camber, but the one you mentioned there, turn 7, that long sweeping right-hander, of course you have got all those factors that come into play. And what it does, as you get on the brakes, the front digs in and the rear lifts up slightly, and it just makes it very light. And the steering feels strong, but the rear doesn't quite have the grip to go with it all the time. So you do suffer potentially from oversteer on that corner, and you can quite easily end up facing the wrong direction and in the gravel, which is not ideal. But that is how it is sometimes. You've got to be very careful with how you take it. But Norberg there sets the first he didn't set the first time, sorry, but he set 1:35. It was invalid, but Cruz now takes provisional pole 1:34.6, and that is valid.
Yeah, that one is valid, as are some of the times coming in now, and drivers just a little off the pace, but maybe getting their eyes set on this qualifying run. And sometimes the second lap is better than the first. Get them tyres in the optimum window. Not only do you have the outlap, maybe use that first lap at full speed to sort of get them tyres into that good window of pressures and temperatures to really attack this next lap. As you've seen a few of the times here, a lot of the times was closer in free practice, so we are expecting a bit of difference. The BMW fuel, ladies and gentlemen out there that want to know, 9 kilograms is it's carrying here, so a little lighter than the McLaren, but it's all going to play into effect as we come through then into this middle section. This is a section of the track that I reckon is where the time is won and lost. The double right hander into then the left is really crucial to get right because it's so tricky. You get the second DRS zone effectively, or what is the Formula 1, down into then the chicane. Another area to get absolutely crucial. Don't be greedy on the first part of the curb. You can mount that second part and just straddle it a little bit, and then you want to use all the runoff as much as you can. And again, another section pretty much off camber a little bit that you really want to make sure you don't put too much power down the first part, especially the second part, because if you turn in just that slight little bit too early or too late, you are going to understeer wide and drift out to the outside wall.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. You're quite right. You just mentioned there sort of getting on the power as early as possible, a lot of time gain and loss. Yeah, turn 10 especially, and I would argue actually turn 13 as well, the second to last corner. They're really crucial exits because you want to get on the power as early as you dare and use as much of the circuit as you can, because that is where a lot of time will be gained or lost, being that they are leading on to the next straight. So, it will have a concertina effect all the way down to the next corner, at which point you are actually getting into the points of overtaking. So it's crucial for racing in terms of getting alongside your competitor, but in terms of overall lap time, they are absolutely crucial there for that too.
Indeed they are then, as Armandson currently second place, just under 3/10 off the back of Cruz, who is at provisional pole at the minute. Nordberg is P3, he's within that half a second as well, and then Elias Fernando sitting in 4th, Alksland in P5, Haugen P6, Sandberg is currently 7th. It's registering him as 8th, so I'm not sure what is the situation there. There is a 15th driver just joined the lobby, so that's great to see. So there is no P7 at the moment, so I'm not sure what has happened there. There is now. Halgan registers that, but now there's no P8 as Brenham goes up into P2 and goes 23 thousandths of a second off that provisional pole. Wondering why there is not a P8. The only thing I can assume is possibly so. We'll have to wait and see what happens as they come out. So there isn't 15 drivers. There might not be 15 drivers. Might still only be the 14 out there at the moment. We'll wait and see for that to sort itself out. As here is the Bentley then, like we said, minus 40 kilograms, so really light going into this race, and that'll have a huge impact, especially through some of these corners. But the Bentley we saw back at Brands Hatch had a bit of momentum on the straights, didn't it, coming down like Hawthorne Hill and down the start-finish straight. It's only got the one straight really to attack here, so it's got to do a lot of its work through the corners.
Yeah, it certainly does. That might be a bit of a hindrance to it because it is such a heavy car. You've mentioned there they have taken as much weight out as they can, but it is still quite cumbersome. So it'd be interesting to see how it does perform this evening. But the one thing I have noticed here, Matthew, is a lot of the cars have all got liveries on this week. So that'll give us, maybe it might make it a bit easier to actually differentiate from some of these drivers out here as Pettersson. It is Pettersson we're on board with, is it not?
Yes.
I think it is, yes. Apologies. Just got a little bit wide out of 13. Might suffer a tiny bit down this start-finish straight as he comes to finish off his timed run. Jumps up to 9th, 136, and then all the twos lining up.
Indeed they are. So it is 8 tenths of a second separating the top 6, and P6 is this man, Elias Fernando, in that mint green and black Ferrari. The Spanish flags on the rear wing end plates. You see there as he rounds and turn 13 and 14, and that's a good exit from 14, carries all that momentum down the start finish straight towards the line. He comes. Any improvement on that last lap? I don't believe so. So that must have either been invalid or an out lap. But Alan Drake Cruz, then, what is he going to do? A man that is currently provisional pole by a good margin, 3 tenths of a second. That is nothing to be sniffed at here. There's a little moment there, maybe getting some heat into the tyres. We'll keep our eyes on that. But we're coming to the back end of this qualifying session. This is a preparation lap, I'm going to say, by the way he's using them tyres and trying to abuse them to get them up to a nice temperature and pressure.
Yeah, it will of course give him that little bit of extra grip once they do get into that working range. So like you say, yeah, he's just on that out lap, trying to get everything into the optimal sort of temperatures, pressures, and get the car working at its absolute best, so then he can really fire it around this circuit and deliver the best lap time he can do. We're just coming up to the 9-minute mark, so that'll give us 6 minutes left here in qualifying. By my calculations, that means the drivers only really have a sort of about 3 or 4 runs left in them, depending on when they do get round to start that next flying lap. But here with Brenham, takes it through 13 and now round 14. I'm not sure if this is a quick flying run or whether he is lining it up, but here he goes over the start-finish line. Let's see how he does. He's backed off.
Yeah, he has backed off. So that's interesting there. Didn't obviously improve. Maybe going for one more final run through here. We'll have to wait and see what will happen in this qualifying session. Like you say, coming to the back end of it. Blue flags waving for the... Was that the Bentley just in front? Yeah, I believe it was the Bentley. Ahead of Sandberg here. Not going to be affecting him massively at the moment. We'll be getting that bit of dirty air coming off the back of the Bentley, but nothing too major. Possibly a good enough gap to really get that slipstream, especially down this second part of the straight. Now, the Bentley to me is on an out lap, because it's being shown the blue flags, and the game only registers that if you are on an out lap compared to the driver on a flying lap. So I reckon the Bentley's on an out lap here. I don't think he's being too much of a hindrance at this moment, and Sandberg will want to try and find 4 tenths of a second to get himself ahead of Petson, getting really close to the back of the Bentley now, coming through turn 12 and into 13. You just see him have a wiggle there on exit, and that's that possible lack of patience, maybe the dirty air hurting the downforce on the BMW through 13 into 14 now. How much time did he lose, or if any, as Solberg gets a PB on the screen, moves within 2.8 seconds of pole. Sandberg, though, to the line in his BMW. Does he improve as he crosses it? A 1:37.0 would suggest not, and a 36.6 from Solberg just ahead. I think that was an outlap. Ivor Solberg, though, the man who has just improved, coming through turn 3. A bit of a wider entry there into turn 3, and like you said in the build-up to this, different lines we're going to see. That's a different, unusual line, going out onto the marbles and bringing it back in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice. Again, I'll bring the liveries back into it. It's nice to see different colours here. This white McLaren looks absolutely stunning as it makes its way around through turn number 7 now. Looks pretty neat and tidy too. I wonder if is this another flying run for Solberg. It's looking pretty good so far. But yeah, we're just waiting and seeing at this moment. We've only got 4 minutes, just under 4 minutes left now in qualifying. The current rundown, we've got Brenham actually on provisional pole. He did improve on that last lap just before he backed out at the end of it. Cruz is second, Amundsen is third, Norberg fourth, Solberg is fifth, Fernando sixth, Axelen is seventh, Halgum eighth, Pettersson ninth, and I think Sandberg is in fact 10th. I think it's just a little bit of a glitch on the timing screen there, so you can ignore the 15, just move them all up by 1, and that'll be their position at the moment.
Well, Solberg looks like he's had a pretty good lap here. He comes through 13 as we say that. Just drops a wheel into the gravel, lost that rear end slightly, managed to hold on to it. Through 14 he comes. He'd have lost a couple of tenths there for sure. Is there any improvement on his lap time though at the moment as he comes towards the line? No improvement at the end. Amundsen as well crossed the line, as did Odegaardson with a 1:37.1. Here is Nordberg out the final corner then. The BMW just running onto the grass, trying to carry as much speed through as possible. Half a second down on the pole sitter. No improvement there as Sandberg does set a better lap time, moves him up into P9, and Haugum there 1:35.8 as he crosses it. Drivers now in the pit lane is only Sandberg. He can come out and just probably squeeze one flying lap here, but he's got to be quick.
Yeah, certainly does have to be. What's that, 2.5 minutes to go, so an out lap and then a full lap. Yeah, that's all he will get, I believe. So he's got to do it and do it now, as they say. But at the moment, we're just waiting for all these guys to finish up their current laps that they are on, slash start their final flying run, because it is now crunch time here for qualifying. As I said earlier, it is quite important. You do want to be as high up as you can, as you do in every qualifying session, but around here it is extra important because it does lend itself to be quite difficult to overtake, as it is a high downforce circuit.
It is, and I'm just trying to look through the notes I have. I don't believe there is any tyre change, tyre set. So it can be, you can obviously set the limitation of how many tyres are used. I can't see anything on a tyre limitation set. So they've got all 50 sets of tyres to use. I'm wondering if in this session they've gone for a fresh set of tyres, gone again to maybe get one last lap in. Alxlin and Pettersson in the pit lane, they are done. They will not be able to get out and get another lap in. That is them out of this session. Fernando as well has finished qualifying for now. BMW though of Nordberg comes out that final corner. Once again, Salzburg doesn't improve, and here comes Nordberg. Will get one more run, and with that one more run puts him onto the second row of the grid, P3. Up from P4 with a 1:34.657. Brenham, though, your provisional pole sitter now, who's got ahead of Cruz and has got ahead by 1.5 tenths, so was over 3 tenths behind. He's now within he's now 1.5 tenths clear, and Brenham at the moment is showing us what he's capable of in qualifying. But Cruz took it late. Brenham's backed out. Is this maybe to just create a little more space going into a final run? Cruz will get one more lap in at the end. He exits turn 14. Lovely exit there, straight onto the outside curb. What is he going to do? Will he improve? Will he find that time? No. That looks to be an out lap for me with a 38.7, 4 seconds off the pace. He's going for one final run here with 30 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a moment there with the picture nonetheless. Cruz now probably on his final flying run, unless of course any mistake is made through this double apex left-hander, the all-important one being the exit. You really want to make sure you clip it quite nicely, for then you are flat out through 4, 5 and 6 before you then rise over the crest and into turn 7. That's that tricky braking zone about there, and then you dive down into the sort of banked curving using all of the track available to you. Master box here, turn number 8, all important as well, clipping the apexes but not too much. You're going to unsettle the car, and then you've got to hook it up quite tight for turn number 9. Find your way back to the middle of the circuit, or all the way to the right in this case for Cruz, and then turn number 10. You want to fevel the throttle as you get on the power. Use the little bit of the runoff there to just eke the track out a little bit more, and then you're going down into the chicane. 11, 12, 13. So far it's looking pretty clean.
So far pretty clean. So far a nice lap from Cruz, who just needs over a 10.5. But Brenham is on a lap behind Cruz, so we'll see what Cruz can do. Believe that is that Sandberg just in front of Cruz, who is setting a lap time as well. So not enough to disrupt the front end of the BMW. Sandberg pulls straight to the pit lane. Cruz wanted a bit of slipstream there. He's going to come to line. Does he find the 10.5? No, doesn't improve on his personal best. Would it have mattered anyway? Because here comes Brenham to the line, just drops a wheel onto the grass at the line now. And does he improve? No, he does not. So it stays as it is. And it is Oystein Brenham who is your pole sitter. Amundsen here, yet to finish. Only half a second off the pole. So Amundsen could theoretically still take this. He had to have a cracking lap though to do so, because Brenham and Cruz seem to have that one pretty much set. He's bailed to the pit lane. And one thing we have to mention, when that race does get underway with the pit stop, pit lane is a little tricky on the entry, because there is like a little chicane as you come into the pits.
Yeah, you're quite right. It's that little chicane as you make your way in, and you do have to get it slowed down to about 50 kilometers an hour. So it is quite a big difference in speed, because you will be coming off full throttle from the final corner. So it is quite tricky to find that line of when to brake and obviously engage the limiter, so that you're not speeding down pit lane and picking up unnecessary penalties. So it's a challenge for the drivers, definitely. Equally on the exit can be quite difficult too. You are joining back onto the racing circuit as you expect, but it does make turn one quite tight, and if someone's racing you side by side into it, it can potentially cause some issues.
And again, with this not being the updated version, like we've seen in Formula 1, the pit lane changed, didn't it, for the Formula 1? When it went back to Zandvoort, it had the pit wall right around the inside of turn 1, and you come out the exit towards turn 2. Like you say, this is pretty much right into that braking zone area of turn 1, and you could end up going 3 abreast. So you've got to be wary as the drivers on the track of cars coming out of pit lane. But I've commentated many a time at this Zandvoort circuit on ACC, and the amount of times a driver will just glance that inside wall, trying to carry as much speed and momentum into the pits. We'll see what happens tonight, but these drivers obviously would have tested all this. This would be things that they've tested throughout the week and in the practice session tonight as well. So they know what they're doing. They're getting ready. And the 14 drivers are going to line up on the grid that we can see here at Zandvoort. 1 hour race, don't forget, as well. And there is that minimum pit stop to take in this race. And don't forget, the drivers are mandatory. I believe fuel is the requirement. So the fuel is 25 seconds stationary. That is what it will take. There is an option of tyres which will take the extra 5 seconds and be 30 seconds instead of the 25. Don't believe there is a pit window. The pit window opens actually 58 minutes. So it'll open after the first minute. It'll close a minute before the end of the race. Now, let me just bring this little graphic I have. I've got to find it on the PC at the moment. There it is. A pit stop loss around this Zandvoort circuit with a tyre change is going to cost you only 54 seconds. Now you're thinking 54, that seems quite a lot. That's very little on ACC compared to most circuits. You'll lose 56% of the lap. That is for a tyre change, so you can knock an extra 5 seconds off of that if you're just in and out for fuel. I don't think we're going to see many just take fuel. I think we're also going to see a bit of tyre change here as well, because of the way the nature of the track is. And it seems a nice sunny day. The temperature seems pretty warm.
Yeah, you're quite right. I think in my mind as well, I would actually take the tyres as well at the pit stop phase, just because the nature of the circuit, there is not many straights. There's a lot of turns, one after the other. You build a lot of heat and temperature in the tyres. And with a hot tyre, and obviously you are pushing it to the limit as we begin the formation lap here, you tend to get a lot more wear in the tyres as well, particularly those front, and I would imagine particularly the left-hand side of the car. They're going to have that bit extra wear on them. So making a tyre change at the pit stop, to me, seems quite sensible.
Lose 5 seconds, but what can you gain after? That's the bonus. I'm just looking on the YouTube chat as well, by the way. Daniel in the chat has said, I guess you know it, but Cruz is 12 years old and driving like a champ. I didn't know that, so fair play to Cruz. 12-year-old. Go on, lad. That is a mega effort to be this good at 12-year-old. What a bright future this young man has in the sim racing world.
That's absolutely crazy. I had no idea either. So that is incredibly impressive, because he is outperforming me in every metric. I can tell you that right now. So fair play to him. Like you say, bright future ahead of him. As what's going on here on the outlap? All getting a little bit messy. Seems to be they are not quite respecting the follow the leader mentality, but it does seem to be a bit ghosted out there, as in the cars won't make contact.
And this is one thing for the viewers who don't normally drive this game or play this game will know, is you have a little box on your screen. Now you have to stay within the green area of this box. There is a yellow area, an orange area, and a red area. If you're in the red area for so long, it will teleport you back to the pits. You will start from the pit lane. What these drivers are doing, seen it so often, is it does look a little messy and a little, untidy. They're going from the green into the orange, slamming on the brakes, getting some brake temperature, getting that tyre temperature. You're not going to see them weave too much, because you generate that pressure a bit more through the stop-starting on ACC compared to other games. So that's what they're doing right now. And yeah, it looks untidy, but from the driving point of view, you fully understand why. And 12-year-old better than me and you, that's why we're sat in this box and not out there on the circuit at this moment. We can talk about him, and we don't have to embarrass ourselves.
No, absolutely. The pressure's on his shoulders. I'm glad it is, because it's not on mine right now. Makes my life a little bit easier. But
Exactly.
Good to know, though, about the tyre strategy and the brake warming, because that was something not on my radar. So that clears that up for me as well. Thank you, Matthew. And I'll tell you what, they're all backing themselves up now, getting ready to go. I'll hand it over to you for the race start.
They are into turn 13 now. So this at the moment, the green box would have told them to go from single file. It'll now tell them to line up in double file. And as they come out of turn 14 towards the start line, that's once again going to change. It's going to give them an average speed. They've got to stick to, I believe it's 70 kilometres an hour. Anything over that, they could get a drive-through penalty for a speeding at the start, or too slow at the start. If you're too slow under that 70 kilometres, I believe it gives you from 55 to 70 kilometres an hour. If you're under that or over that, you could get a drive through at the start. So crucial you nail this start process and the procedure that you have to go through. But for the second round of the season here at sunny Zandvoort, it is green and go, and it is a great start from the 12-year-old Cruz, who's already got alongside and in front of Brennan, but Brennan has that inside line, comes back at him into turn 1, and it is side by side as the train of cars filter through. Brennan now tucks back into the lead, in towards turn 2, little bit on the brakes there, now heavier on the brakes in towards 3, as that hairpin comes up pretty quickly out of turn 2, now up and over the hill and over the crest. There's a car that's a little wide. That McLaren of Erdegaardsen just looked to me like it had a little bit of damage. The front bonnet just looked slightly lifted, suggesting that he has maybe driven into the back of another car. But apart from that, squeaky clean through everybody, in towards the right-hander now as we come back down the hill. And it is a brilliant start, and it is also a BMW 1, 2, 3, 4 with the Bentley in P5. So this at the moment is an outstanding start to this race from all these drivers.
Yeah, great start from everybody, and it is always good to see nobody facing the wrong direction. So that, to me, is a win already at this early stage of this race. You could be right, though, into turn number 2. It's very much, you have to feel the corner. It's quite a hard braking reference to gauge, and so it is very possible, particularly on this opening lap, cars bunched up together, very close and compact, that you could easily be a little bit too late on the brakes and you've gone into the back of your rival just in front of you. But no one else seems to be having any issues or problems. So to me, that is a very successful start indeed, as they now round turn number 14 for the first time and down the start-finish straight. To finish lap number 1, Brennan leads, Cruz is second, and Norberg rounds out the top 3 for the moment. You can see they're all single file down to the back.
And it just shows you how good a lap that Brennan's had there. He's just managed to put a couple of tenths of a second between himself and Cruz. They're also gapping Nordberg. Armundsen's the one who's under a little bit of pressure here from Solberg. You've then got Axelin, who is in the Mercedes AMG GT3, as that's a car very wide through turn 1. That is Erdegaardsen, and you just see that front end. You just see between the front bumper and bonnet. He's definitely been in the back of somebody, and not the start to his race he would have wanted. That is going to hurt him. But with that pit window opening after a minute, he could possibly come in and get that repaired as soon as possible. Battle behind then, Nielsen and Haugum going at it through 4 and 5. The red Ferrari versus the purple McLaren, and Haugum, great move to get that job done. Westergaard, poor start from him though, 14 seconds off the back of Nielsen, so maybe not the cleanest of lap ones for him. But plenty of time to make up. Your race is not over after that first lap. Solberg, though, in the Bentley, going strong already. The only car on the game that is right-hand drive.
Really? That's also good to know. I had no idea. You're throwing facts out left, right and centre here, Matthew.
Thanks to Lee there for choosing the camera at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely, because you've got a brilliant view there. You can see him on the right-hand side. That might affect him a little bit in terms of racing if he's in the cockpit view, because he will have a slightly different view to the rest of the drivers, but I can't imagine it will affect him all that much. It's still looking nice and clean and tidy. Got a little bit on the grass, but that's all right there. He'll easily be forgiven for it as they go now over the start-finish line to finish lap number 2. Brenham increasing that lead out front just by a couple of tenths, but these two, once again, seems like a repeat of a few weeks ago. They pulled that gap to Norberg in third, and the gap, about 2 seconds up and down.
And it's roles reversed this time, though, isn't it, with Brenham out front? Will Cruz be able to play the master strategy that Brenham pulled out at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago? And great start from these two, already starting to pull away. But Amundsen has got that Bentley just with him still. He's kind of in the middle of two battles here. He's trying to attack the back of Nordberg, but as Solberg right there, so knows if he puts a foot wrong, the Bentley will be straight on the back of him. Fernando's dropped right off the back of this pack, the leading McLaren car that's out there on the circuit. He's got Axelin in the Mercedes, keeping him for company, with Sandberg not far off the back of Axelin as well. So at this early stage of the race, the car's just getting to a part where they're a couple of tenths between each of them. A nice steady start to the race, and there is Sandberg, who was in the thick of most battles, I believe, back at Brands Hatch. It was brilliant to watch, and it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm going to also give a shout out there to Axelin in 7th in that Mercedes. Last week, not the best of finishes he might have wanted. He finished in 14th. At the moment, he's way up though, 7 positions from that time, 2 weeks ago, in 7th. So no, he's having a pretty good qualifying. He's having a good performance so far. Still early doors. He may climb further still, but it's looking good for him at the moment in that Mercedes. But yeah, Sandberg was in the thick of it, as you mentioned a few weeks ago. It could be a very similar story once again, because he is following that Mercedes rather closely as we now look at the battle a bit further back. Udegaardstuen right up on the gearbox of Pettersson in that Bentley. He's going to pull out the slipstream there. Is he going to get a long enough side to make the move? Oh, ever so close, but not quite.
Yeah, thought about it, didn't do it. The Mercedes AMG is carrying 6 kilograms of ballast. The Ferrari carrying 17. The Bentley, reminder, is minus 40. The BMW M4 carries 9. The McLaren 720S Evo is carrying 12. And the Ford Mustang, I do believe there is one Mustang out there. That might be Westergaard, actually. That is carrying 1 kilogram. So interesting to see the different variety. The Bentley, obviously being that older car, getting that less of a weight penalty, really trying to help it through. But this already turning into a fantastic fight between that of Sandberg and Pettersson and Udegaardsen, and Haugum in the background coming into play. And I believe we saw Pettersson in the thick of battles as well. This is just all going to be fascinating at the moment.
Yeah, only 6 minutes gone, and these guys are really giving us a show to look at, so it's great stuff to begin with. I will say Brenham out front, he's managed to increase that gap further still. It's hovering around just over a second between him and Cruz, and then you've got a similar sort of gap between Cruz and Norberg. So the guys out front just separating a little bit. It could be that one's pushing a bit harder than the other, and that may close up later on. But for the moment, they're all sort of getting that clean there, finding their feet, and getting in the groove of things, whereas these guys a bit further down, they're still very much fighting for position. I wonder if we might see another move then down in towards turn 1, Tarzanbach corner. Udegaardstuen riding on board with here, looking at the back of that blue Bentley. He's going to be late on the brakes. Oh, he's had to pull out of it, too late on the brakes, almost got it all wrong and into the gravel. He might even lose a position here to Haugum in that red Ferrari. They're going to be side by side now through turn number 2. Haugum inside line, thank you very much. He'll take that and move on up.
Yeah, he will move on up, and a little late, day late, dollar short on the brakes there for Udegaardstuen, and Haugum does get that position. Cruz, though, has dropped massively off the back of Brenham and into that clutches of Nordberg here as they come into the middle sector of this circuit. So just at this stage of the race, is Cruz maybe looking after his tyres a little bit more? Is he thinking of not changing his tyres and going longer in the stint, maybe just a splash and dash at the end. I say splash and dash, everybody's held for 25 seconds mandatory, so not as splash and dash as you'd have normally liked. Either way, Nordberg potentially had to put the cat amongst the pigeons, really, and I don't think we expected Cruz to drop off the pace this early in the race.
Well, if last time out was anything to go by, I was expecting Brenham and Cruz maybe to run off out front a little bit further than what we're seeing quite right now. Nordberg very much tucked up underneath that rear wing of the BMW of Cruz. He'll have the slipstream, a little bit wide on the exit there of 14, but he should have a good run down towards turn number 1. Let's see if he can get close enough and alongside to maybe take a lunge at it. No, not quite into turn number 1, but he is right on the gearbox there, practically pushing Cruz around the corner as we now make our way towards turn number 2. As I said earlier, quite a hard braking zone to judge, but these two looking as if they've got that done to perfection through turn number 3, and he's still very close to the back of that car in front. He is pretty much pushing him around the circuit.
Yeah, pretty much, and he's managed to be 4/10 of a second quicker on the last, 6/10 of a second quicker on the last lap of the race. So clearly pushing that car is Nordberg and Cruz, either struggling or just tyre managing at the moment. Nordberg doing a terrific job though as they come in towards the middle sector once again through this double right-handed section, and this is where your time is valuable. Set the cars up, not really a place to overtake, but you can really set them up, get this sector right, and you can make that lunge as he has another look up to the left-hander, gets very close to the rear bumper of Cruz, but manages to come out of it okay and unharmed. But you see there, Cruz just got the better run out the corner, and that's where it's crucial, because you can get up the inside at the first part of this chicane and make the move stick. Maybe he's trying to set him up out the final corner. Bit of a loose exit of turn 12 there as they come in towards 13 once again, and Nordberg at the moment doing a terrific job to just put Cruz under enough pressure so far. Through the final corner they come now down to the start straight. He's got to be careful though as well, because he's got Armundsen right with him, and Haugen, who got past Erdegartsen a moment ago, is in the pit lane, our timing screens are saying. So what has happened to Haugen there? Shame for him. He is stationary in the pit lane. And is that strategy to get his stop done? That seems early, and that seems like I don't think he would have been lapped by now at this stage of the race for pitting, because you only lose 56% of the lap.
I think that's worse than pitting. I think that's potentially a retirement there for Haugen. He's still pit lane. There was no sort of movement around the car when we had that quick look on board with him. So I fear the worst for him, unfortunately, and it's a shame so early on as well. Only 10 minutes in, still had a long way to go, so it is a shame to lose one driver already. But this is the battle for second place that we're looking at now, and it is between 3 BMWs, Cruz, Nordberg and Amundsen, all fighting it out. And I've got to think, though, as you said earlier, Matthew, maybe this is a bit of strategy from Cruz. He's backing them up slightly, not on purpose, but actually to try and preserve those tyres. And the crucial thing with him and Brenham, the gap's 3 seconds, there or thereabouts. He's not pulled away drastically, though. So this could be a very wise head on a young set of shoulders.
It massively could be. I wonder, though, if it's the right strategy call. I don't think it potentially is. I think that, if you're going to make your tyres last the whole way, great, but surely by you've still got to stick with Brenham somewhat. You don't want to lose that 5 seconds that you could gain in the pit lane. Haugen will be, if he's returned to the garage, he will have to be mandatory stationary for 2 minutes. That is what the game makes you do. So then, plus any damages he'll have to his name after that will be added. So we'll see if Haugen comes back out on track. I assume there must have been a problem somewhere, because he was overtaking cars and looking pretty good. This is though the battle for second, third and fourth between Cruz, Nordberg. We're on board with Armundsen here. And just looking at the timing screen, Vestergaard is on the back of Nielsen, down for 12th and 13th place. And interesting strategies being played out here. As I say that, Sofberg's just gone back ahead of Nielsen and Vestergaard. So I'm not sure what happened there, but changes happening all the time. But it's second, third and fourth that's currently the ones that are watching. Cruz isn't scruffy on his laps at the moment, is he? His lap times are slower. He's lost another 6/10 to the leader, was a 10th slower than Nordberg. But he's not sliding the car around. The car seems in check. It seems to be doing what he wanted to do. That's what makes me feel like that Cruz is looking after them tyres. Here is the Ford Mustang, though, of Vestergaard on the back of Nielsen in that McLaren. And we said that, it's a tight circuit to overtake on. Imagine being in that thing trying to overtake, because it is huge.
It certainly is rather wide. I do feel for the Ford and the Bentleys this weekend, or this evening, because yeah, they do have a rather wide vehicle, probably quite cumbersome to turn in as well. But that's good old American muscle and British classiness, shall we say, those two different brands. But yeah, it can be quite difficult to overtake for these guys, and especially around here. But Westergaard looking to potentially line up this McLaren quite nicely. Out of turn number 10 they go now. Let's see if he can maybe get alongside with that power of the Ford Mustang down towards turn number 11. Oh, he has a late lunge, potentially, yes. And the McLaren's just got out the way to not cause contact. He's now going to have the chance to go round the outside here of turn 12. He'll have the inside for 13, but I think Nilsson might have already given that up, and Westergaard has found his way into 12th position. Good move.
And that was a lovely move. Great awareness, though, from Nielsen. Could have easily have turned into the corner and there'd been an incident. So great awareness from Nielsen. But Westergaard, great move to keep it around the outside. Cruz now really under pressure from Norberg and Amundsen. Solberg in the background will be watching this and thinking he could maybe get a little bit closer to these trio while they start to battle and squabble. They're all line of stern at the moment, so nothing going to cost them or compromise them. One man it is helping out, though, is Brennan, who is just gapping and gapping every little sector he goes through on this circuit. And Cruz not putting a foot wrong at the moment, but just doesn't have that pace of the cars behind him, and that is really hurting him in this race. If he is thinking of that just no tyres at the pit stop, I think he's got to be in that 5-second window, and he just isn't to Brennan at this stage of the race. As they come through 11 and 12, and Norberg really trying to get his exit spot on, that it's just hurting him a little bit. You just see the car a little twitchier compared to the other two BMWs, and that is kind of compromising him on the corner exits, isn't it? He's getting close enough, but just getting a scruffy exit that's losing him a lot of time on that corner exit.
Yeah, quite rightly. And I'm going to just try and clear up maybe the timing tab, because we can see the times going up and down, but never mind. Here comes potentially Amundsen on Norberg for P number 3. I think he's going to have to back out of that one. Yeah, it was just a little bit too close for comfort, really, but he's potentially going to make a move soon, because he does seem to be getting a little impatient now behind third place here. We'll see how this one continues to unfold, but I'll get back to the original bit, the sort of timing tab. The time's going up and down because it's throwing me off a bit as well. However, it is just due to the concertina effect of these cars accelerating and braking. So as they go into a corner, they slow it all down, of course, as you should do to get through, and then back on the exit you speed back up. But with two different cars at different points of the circuit, it just it goes up and down with the times between them. So just to clarify that, if anyone was confused at home.
As the BMWs now, the trio of them, this helps Cruz out massively. You can already see that he's put a bit of daylight between himself and Norberg, just with Norberg coming under that pressure. And you're seeing 3 different lines, and you're not seeing the right line there from Amundsen, just dropping half a car over the curb and onto the grass, as down towards turns 11 and 12 they come once again. And already mistakes starting to creep in here from these two drivers who's behind Cruz. And this is where it's testament to Cruz, really. 12 years old, wise head on young shoulders, but hasn't put a foot wrong in this race. The other two drivers are making them little errors, and that is what's costing them at this moment of the game.
Yeah, it certainly is. But again, this is just purely because they are being backed up a little bit by Cruz. Last time around, these guys, they're all sort of in the high 35s now, whereas Brennan out front last time by, he was in the low 35s. You can see there he is slowly increasing that gap lap after lap. And at this rate and pace, Brennan can easily pit and change the tyres and still come out ahead of these guys in terms of strategy. So if Cruz wants to get this to work, you are looking at that 5-second window. You kind of need to be in it, otherwise it's not worth it.
Well, also, let's not forget, what's the fuel situation? Is Brennan running a lighter load of fuel to maybe pit earlier in the race, whereas Cruz may be running the full tank, do the hour, and yes, you've only got to add 1 litre minimum to stay the 25 seconds, but he might be running till the very, very end of this race, and this is the crucial thing. Notice as well on the timings from the last lap, Solberg was quicker than the 3 cars in front by a couple of tenths as well, so he is, slowly chipping away. At 2nd, 3rd and 4th is Solberg in the Bentley. This is Fernando, though. He is in P6 at the moment. We're on now with Solberg in P5, and he is running a great little race at this stage of the game. Really is, at the moment, I'd say, in the box seat if the 3 in front really start to dance.
Yeah, you're right. I think we'll bring in Fernando into that conversation as well, because also last time he was some few tenths quicker than that little trio there fighting for second place. So I feel like this could all concertina up even more, and we potentially could have 5 cars battling it out for the 2 bottom steps of the podium at this rate, but equally they're all going to want to try and get as high as they can, and it is all closing up together now, as we're still looking on board here with Solberg in the blue Bentley. You can see on the side it looks like the little Norwegian homes at the side of the sea, potentially. Nice little scenery for you there, but good old Norwegian flag on top as well. And like you say, Matthew, he is just slowly chipping away at the gap between him and the guys in front, and I can't imagine it'll be too much longer, because they are still going at it quite hard, that he'll be on to the back of them.
I'd like to check out Sandberg in PX. It looks like on the timing screens he's got Pettersson and Ødegaardsen gaining on him. Here is Sandberg, who was, like we said, in the thick of the battles last time out. There is Pettersson and Ødegaardsen. Well, on the timing screens wasn't a million miles away. No, there he is. Look, over the crest he comes now. So starting to gain as well. And Vestergaard in that Ford Mustang, whatever problems he had to put him 18 seconds off the back of the pack at lap 1, he's now on the back of Solberg as well. So Vestergaard trying to make his way through the field. He's still some 20 seconds off of these 3. But he's also trying to get past Solberg and just move himself up the standings. I haven't seen the Ferrari, by the way, in the pits as we've come down the start straight, as there is action happening. Cruz and Nordberg change positions there. So I wonder if there's a bit of squabbling going on, and there is. Look, now the trio becomes a four-way between Solberg, Amundsen, Nordberg and Cruz. And Cruz did lose out momentarily to Nordberg there, but looks like he's got whatever problems he's had under control, and has gapped Nordberg a little bit, who ran a little wide out of turn 12.
Yeah, I could probably bet that was going into turn number 11 after the back straight. Norberg probably would have had a nice run on Cruz and got late on the brakes, but Cruz probably, well, as we found out, he's prevailed. He's still in second place. Looking at the gaps though between these and the leader, it's doubled up almost from when we last checked it out, really. It's about 10 seconds by my calculations when they do reach the start-finish line. That's well within the realms of being able to pit and put a new set of tyres on and comfortably maintaining that lead. So Brenham at the moment doing everything he needs to and then some in order to take this win away this evening. But 20 minutes are about to go, and that does mean we then have 40 remaining. So there's still a long way in this race, not even at the halfway stage just yet. There's still probably a lot of strategy to come, as Cruz getting a little bit of daylight between him and Norberg out of Masterbocht. And then turn 9 and now turn 10. I don't think Norberg's going to have a run at him this time, by.
No, I don't think he is. Just looking at the last laps, by the way, Brennan 1.9 quicker than Cruz on the last lap alone. So he is absolutely flying and charging at this stage of the race. And good pace from Brennan out front. He's doing what he needs to do, and Solberg now on the back of Amundsen and Norberg. What can he do in this race? The Bentley driver, I'm sure, would love to be on the podium. It'd be fantastic to see these guys do so well, and it's going to be an interesting end to this race. But like I say, strategy is the key at the moment. Let's just see what Brenham can do in terms of his strategy. And Cruz coming into the pits, I'm surprised at this from Cruz. I either thought he was tyre saving or running heavier fuel, but he's in the pits rather early, I'd say.
Maybe he wants to go long in the latter half, knowing that a lot of that fuel will burn off, particularly in the closing stages. And I think the tyres at this point now, swapping over, you'll get them easily to the end, no doubt. As we're right on board with Ødegaard Stewart, having a look at the inside of Pettersson, maybe into Tarzanbot corner, pulls out and then darts back in and thinks better of it, but potentially on the exit here, because Pettersson seems to have a little bit of a mishap on the exit of turn number 1. Through 2 they go now and into 3. And yep, the McLaren is still behind the Bentley at the moment, as they now find their way up through 4, 5 and 6 flat out. Back on board though with the guys out front. Norberg now inherits second place after Cruz has just pitted.
Yeah, he does indeed, and he's still got Amundsen and Solberg there, so it's still a three-way fight for second place. And it's been a great battle between these 3, and we said at Brands Hatch, didn't we? The amount of battles, the quality of the racing we got was fantastic. We're getting the same here tonight. And this is really what you guys and girls at home, the viewers, are going to want to see. You're going to want to see this quality in the action from all of these drivers. And this is absolutely fantastic from every single one of them, as Cruz comes out dead last in this race at the moment from his pit stop. as Vestergaard did get past Solberg, so he has got that one done. And yes, there we go. Nordberg coming in straight away to cover that of Cruz. So interesting strategies here. Going to be an interesting one to find out. This is, though, back down with Sandberg in P7, the pink and black BMW just in front of the Bentley of Pettersen we're on board with. And then Erdegaardsen in P8 behind. This is a trio fight here. I'm surprised Erdegaardsen hasn't gone to repair that damage. But, you know, he's obviously carrying on and managing to keep that pace. They all get ahead, then you see, of Nordberg, and we got a good shot there in the pit lane. Haugum isn't in there, which means he has retired for the day, so that will be his day done. And this is Cruz gaining on Nielsen, but the interesting strategy, the interesting bit to look at is Nordberg. You lose 56% of your lap. Did Nordberg do enough on that one lap of clean air to jump Cruz? I'm going to say no, because Cruz comes past now. That's an interesting line from Cruz, straight all over the marbles.
He might have been thinking of trying to cover off the car on the exit, knowing that Norberg's coming out of the pits, which you could argue a little bit naughty and cheeky, because if you know someone's coming out of the pit lane, the last thing you want to do is potentially try and cause an incident. But either way, he's got away with it for the moment, as Odegaard's doing now around the outside of the Bentley. Tiny bit of contact there through turn number 10. I think he's going to get the better traction though on the exit. Had that slightly straighter line, wasn't so tight. Now towards turn number 11, he'll have the inside line and the advantage into the first part of the chicane. I think he's got that done and cemented, and now potentially can go chasing after Sandberg in front for P6. But finally, Odegaard's doing has managed to get past Pettersen.
Yeah, he has managed to get through, and a good job. But they both just dropped a wheel on the gravel. Amundsen and Fernando into the pit lane. And so Amundsen is reacting to that of Cruz and Nordberg here. And that's put Solberg into P2. Solberg, if you remember back at Brands Hatch, went very, very long on his strategy. And it was a great call from him that put him up the standings in this race. So Fernando and Amundsen into the pit lane. There is Cruz and Nordberg. Cruz has gapped Nordberg just ever so slightly. And they've both got ahead of Nielsen as well, so they're going to try and come through. The interesting thing here is, where will Amundsen come out in relation to these two? Back, though, to the battle of Sandberg, Erdegaardsen and Pettersen, coming down towards 4, 5 and 6. And this has been a great battle between the three of them. That slight contact again on the McLaren. Will it have hurt the McLaren massively? No. But it would have just added to that little bit of repair time if he chooses to repair it in the pit lane. The Bentley having a look, though, coming into this section. That is very, very tricky to get a move done up the inside there. The Bentley, though, of Pettersen trying to retake that position, while Erdegaardsen, at the position he got past Pettersen earlier on, is definitely having a look now at the BMW and thinks about going up the inside. Room left there by Sandberg, and now he tries to squeeze and open the door. Contact made once again, and he tries to barge it open. Doesn't overtake. That's probably beneficial for his sake to not get a penalty. Now the Bentley of Pettersen's going to look around the outside of Erdegaardsen. Can he keep it there for the inside of the next part of the corner? Not quite, and that is battle over.
Yeah, Odegaard's doing a bit naughty, but a bit what I would call old racing, a little bit of rubbing his racing, and I would say that's okay, no problems, because Sandberg has still kept the position and nothing else really came of it. And then into the next corner, turn 11, in my opinion, that was some good defending driving there from Odegaard's doing, in fact, trying to make sure that the Bentley doesn't retake him after he got a little bit squirrely out of turn 10 before. So no, it's good racing all round, in my opinion. It's pretty good, so we will not complain about it all that much, because it is throwing up quite a spectacle as he still looks to desperately try and get past this BMW. He's all up on the gearbox, and well, if he does have damage, it doesn't appear to be doing anything in terms of his confidence or speed, because he's still got plenty in his back pocket and trying to make moves as we now find our way through 4, 5 and 6, these flat out sort of little kinks, and then over the rise into the crest for turn number 7. Tricky braking zone, as I've mentioned a couple times. Don't hit the inside curb, it will very much unsettle the car, and then you turn all the way to the left hand side to open up master box there, turn number 8, and you do the same thing here for turn number 9. All looking neat and tidy those from these guys once again, as they now find their way to turn number 10. Always potentially going to try and do the long way round, maybe get an undercut and go up the inside. Not quite. Now the Bentley might have a run though.
Yeah, the Bentley has a run. Did he just make contact? I'm not quite sure. I don't think he did. But either way, he tried to have a look at a run and couldn't get that run done. So stays as it is at the moment. But like you say, whatever damage that McLaren may be carrying, Ødegaardsen is absolutely full of confidence.
Yeah, it's not hampered him at all. He's still going at it. Dips a wheel in the gravel there through turn 13. That's going to hamper his speed a little bit now as we go through 14 and onto the start-finish straight. All of these guys using every inch of the circuit, and rightly so, because that does equate to better lap times. Slight defensive line there from the McLaren, trying to defend from that Bentley behind, making sure no moves are potentially going to be made, as he is still trying to find a way past Sandberg. But like I said before, and I'll probably say it once again later on, it is a high downforce circuit. There isn't many straights where you can really benefit from the slipstream effect and pull alongside your rivals. So if you're going to make a move, you have to be quite strategic when and where you do it, because there aren't many opportunities.
There aren't at all. Solberg into the pits from 11th place. That's allowed Fernando and Armington to get past. Cruz did get ahead of Norberg and Armington. This still now the three-way battle for P4 at the moment. And it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens throughout this race. Nielsen also into the pits as Ødegaardsen getting closer once again. This seems to be his strongest part of the track. Now lunges up the inside, and that was a little bit of a late lunge, I'd say. Clips the Bentley on the rejoin as well, does Ødegaardsen. And what was hard but fair earlier just seemed a little clumsy there. I'm not sure who's at fault. We obviously was looking on the rear wing. I'm going to put that one on Ødegaardsen, though. It looked like he come from a bit of a mile back and left it too late.
Yeah, it's hard to judge from the camera angles we got, so I won't say anything too much from it. But yeah, it looked to be fighting just a little bit too hard into that corner on that tour of the circuit, and it didn't pay off for him. But either way, he'll still go marching forward and try and race on, because he is still in this fight, and he can still continue to try and make some positions up. But he definitely lost one there to Pettersson, as Axelin in that Merc has now come into the pits. I think he was third position. He's now down into sixth. He might lose a few more as the essentially provisional podium sitters come round now. Cruz, Norberg and then Amundsen. And last time by, from my calculations, they're actually doing a lot quicker lap times now. They're in the low 35s, and Brenham out in the lead is sort of matching that pace as well. So they seem to have found something where they've got that little bit of extra lap time now, and they're matching the leader. But they don't want to be matching, they want to be beating if they want to bring that gap down that Brenham managed to get early on in this race.
Cruz has at least got to pull back at a 5 or 10 second advantage, surely, depending on what Brenham does in the pit stops. I'm surprised Ødegaardsen didn't come into the pits there, while them three have been squabbling as well, by the way. That has really allowed Vestergaard, who is now only about 6 or 7 seconds off the back of these two, to gain on this trio of cars. Pettersson's pulled away from these two after the incident they had. But so far so good if you're Brenham out front, lapping 35.5 last time around. So we'll see what his rivals are doing behind. They want to take a good chunk of time out of them. I'd be very surprised to not see Ødegaardsen in the pits this lap, and just maybe have a bit of time to cool down, gather your thoughts, as both Bentley and McLaren there drop a wheel into the gravel out of 13 and into 14 then. And yeah, there we go. Look, all three of them, in fact, there we go. Why not have a race in the pit lane? All three of them, Sandberg, Pettersson, Ødegaardsen, into the pits at the same time. That will release Vestergaard, provided he pits. But crucially, that's not going to allow Cruz to gain on these three over that length of time and get caught up in their battle.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting here is they've all come in at the exact same time. So in theory, look at them, they're all one behind the other as well in the pit lane. In theory, they're going to be racing on the exit. It'd be nice if we could see how that unfolds when they do get there. But looking on board here with Fernando, he's just said a 1:35.7. So he is sort of a little bit down in terms of lap time than the next sort of trio in front of him, but he's still going around at some speed. So he seems to be in a little bit of no man's land at the moment, but going strong and maintaining that position that he is in is a good one to have nonetheless. Here we go. Sandberg's away. Who's next? You think it would be the McLaren? Ødegaard's doing? Is he going to be next?
Just depends on
quite along.
Yeah, I reckon these are changing. These are definitely changing tyres, potentially repairing that bit of damage, as there is the race leader coming in the pits. I think that is a potential tyre change, if not damage. Yes, you can tell Oh no, maybe not on the front at McLaren, so we'll wait and see. But Brenham is into the pit lane, and where is Cruz? Well, he's coming up to the final couple of corners now. He's coming up to turn 11 and 12. That is Westergaard in front of him, who is yet to pit. So this is 4th position as well out there on the circuit. And where will Cruz come out? Has his strategy been better this week? So it was his strategy call last week that lost him this race.
Well, this is crucial here, and it's actually a shame in a way for it, because, yeah, of course, Westergaard there doesn't have to get out of the way. He'll give him a nice slipstream, though, round the corner. Here he goes. Pit exit is Brenham. Cruz coming down the start-finish straight. Oh, he's nowhere near. Brenham clearly out in front on pit exit, so nice and easy for him. He'll maintain that provisional lead, but Solberg out front now. He's the lead of this race. He's doing that alternative strategy once again that he did a few weeks ago. I wonder if it will work for him this week, because it did pretty well for him last time around. Let's see if it's the same result. He was, I think, about 5th before the pit stop started funneling in.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see where he comes out by the time he does pit, shall we say.
Let's not forget, pit stop in and out with the 25 seconds, 30 seconds if you take the tyres, is 54 seconds. That would put him around Nordberg at this moment in time. Back in P5 where he was, he only needs a couple of seconds over Amundsen to maybe be P4. So with the times fluctuating and, you know, ebbing and flowing each way, we're not quite sure the exact gap over Amundsen and Nordberg that Solberg has at this stage of the race. What we do know is he could maybe jump onto this podium, if not into that top 4, by the end of his pit stop, depending on his pace now compared to the others. And I think if he changes his tyres, he's going to have that fresher rubber later in the race than what the others have, who, especially if Cruz, Amundsen and Nordberg, who pitted earlier, did change tyres or not.
Yeah, I think that's going to be crucial to his strategy, isn't it? Is making sure that these laps right now that he is doing, they are the crucial ones. His last lap were 1:36.1, which is about 8 or 7 tenths slower than Cruz on his last lap. So by that metric, he is losing time to them behind, but they have just made that stop. He is on older tyres at this point of the race, so it's going to be interesting to see how fast he can go once he does get potentially that new set on. And I think it'd be silly not to do, because that becomes your advantage at that point of the race.
Yeah, you're going to have to take some advantage back. Here is Amundsen then, who has lost out to Cruz. Has got past Nordberg, though, I'm noting. Nordberg has dropped behind him at some stage. He was obviously the car in between Amundsen and Cruz earlier in this race. So Nordberg down to 5th, Amundsen running in P4, but they are a little quicker than the leader Solberg. Everybody has done their stop, I am led to believe, bar that of Solberg. And don't forget, they have until the final minute of the race. Now, the one thing to notice as well, you guys won't be able to see this on the screen. What the drivers will see, or be told as well by race control through the game, is that the pit window will be closing in X amount of minutes, or, you know, it's closing now. As long as Solberg is in pit lane across that pit limiter line, as the window closes, that counts as his pit stop done if he meets the requirements of 1 litre of fuel, which will hold him for 25 seconds. So all he has to do is be across that pit window, that pit lane line, as the window shuts, for his pit stop to still count. So he can go right until that until 59 seconds left of that last minute of the pit window. But do you want to risk that as a driver? Probably not, and I'd argue that the times of the other guys around him, he's going to want to pit relatively soon. His fastest lap is a 55.2. Brenham's just done a 55.0, and I don't think Solberg's matching his fastest at this stage of the race. So it is Solberg from Brenham from Cruz is your top 3. Amundsen from Nordberg 4th and 5th with Fernando in P6. Axelen is P7. Sandberg P8. Pettersen in 9th from Erdegaardsen, Westergaard, Solberg, Nielsen, and we lost Haugum earlier in the race. That is your current running order, as we have 24.5 minutes left to go in this one. And actually, just at this stage now, where you kind of get that lull before the end, where it kind of pieces back together and we get some chaos.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, at least, because you're quite right. This is sort of, they've spread out a little bit. The pit stops have effectively done that to them. So hopefully within the closing state, well, within the next 10 minutes or so, let's say, I would imagine these gaps should begin to close up as Odegaard's doing his coming back into pit lane. So I wonder what is going on here. Maybe he is thinking the damage is too much to handle. I hope maybe, well, I'm hoping this isn't going to be a retirement. But he is in pit lane. He is going to lose some positions here to Solberg here in that white McLaren. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, sorry, Ferrari. Apologies. Yeah, you're quite right, Matt. But either way, the livery itself is absolutely fantastic. I really do like that one. It stands out for me. And you don't often see a white Ferrari nowadays, or really ever at all, do you?
Good. I like that. You know, they're not gone with the traditional red or the yellow that you kind of see every now and again. Gone for something different, and I do like that from Salzburg. But yeah, Erdegartsen, maybe the damage. One thing I could possibly just throw out there for Erdegartsen, did he put the fuel in the car? Because if he was stationary with his tyre change, that's still 30 seconds, plus his damage, if he did repair it. If he didn't put at least 1 litre in the car, it wouldn't have registered as completing his actual pit stop. So maybe that's why he's came back into the pits, or maybe it is the damage, like you've just said, Ashley. There's my favourite livery of the day. I'm loving the mint green on that McLaren. I think that is absolutely gorgeous. Off Fernando, who, like you said, is in no man's land at this stage of the race. He's not really able to do anything at the minute. Oh, beautiful yellow and green and black there from Axlin as well. A few liveries on display. I do enjoy a good livery on a car. Something that's not just chucked together at last minutes with a couple of colours. I like the finer details on them. And I have to say, Axlin has got that Mercedes. He's had a better week, hasn't he? Let's be honest. Brands Hatch didn't seem to do well for the Mercedes, but it looks a lot better around here.
Yeah, he's certainly turned up the performance, if you like, because yeah, he's 7 positions up from his finishing position last time out at Brands. So yeah, definitely a big improvement for the Mercedes driver. And you mentioned the livery there as well. I do like this one as well. You've got it green fades into yellow with obviously the black all around it as well. So no, they're very nicely accented, shall we say. And Nilsson here in the brilliant purple McLaren, and I do know that is a McLaren this time around. I haven't got it mixed up, but yeah, nice silver purple there from him. He's some few seconds off the back of Solberg in P11th. Once again, he's sort of in a little bit of no man's land himself. Last lap there was a 1:38.4, so he's a little bit off the time in terms of lap time, but he's still in it, and that does still mean points for him, so that's always good to see. And Udegaard Stewart has returned back onto the circuit. You can see him just in the background there emerging from turn number 1, so it's good to see he hasn't retired the car.
It is, and testament to Nielsen, like you said, a couple of seconds off the pace, still going. Points mean prizes at the end of the day, and you never know what's going to happen to the drivers around you in the race. And Zandvoort, with it being pretty tight and twisty and the barrier's not far away, it can cause a lot of damage if there is a few big wrecks in the race. And you know what, the green and yellow of the Mercedes kind of gave me like a bit of a cold trickle Days of Thunder vibe, if you know the film.
Haven't a clue. You might have to explain that one to me after.
Tom Cruise, NASCAR, basically.
Lovely.
Old film. But yeah, one of his cars, green into yellow, and kind of blends nicely. It kind of gives me them kind of vibes. Beautiful looking livery out there. Cruz, I must admit, Cruz's strategy today has thrown me in this race, because his pace since the pit stop has been far greater than his pace before the pit stop. So not a clue what has happened there. But either way, he's still not at the pace of Brennan. Brennan has been fantastic as Solberg now comes into the pit lane to complete his mandatory pit stop. It's going to be interesting to see where he comes out in the Bentley. Around 5th place is what we reckon. Probably not at the pace of the front runners to stick with them, as Armington's gone through and Norberg now goes through. So I imagine he's going to come out P5 still. But yeah, Cruz's strategy, actually, I don't know about you, but it's threw me a little bit today. Didn't have the pace early stages, but has had the pace since.
Yeah, it completely threw me off as well, to be honest. We weren't expecting it, particularly with his pace. He was slower than Brenham in the early stages there. We thought, maybe he's saving his tyres a little bit. He's going to try and go long, or maybe not even switch the tyres at the pit stop. But yeah, he's not quite had the pace of Brenham out front, so he's struggled a little bit, but he's still happily in second, and he has got a bit of a gap back to Amundsen, so I would say he's comfortable, let's say. But yeah, strategy-wise, definitely been thrown off by Cruises there.
Yeah, I have indeed, but either way, P2, and again, points mean prizes, so yes, Brenham's got the upper hand in the first 2 races, but there's 3 more to go. And that reminds me, where does that take us to next time out? Where's my notes? Just to see, believe we're at Zolder next time out. We are at Zolder next time out in a fortnight's time, so that will be on the 24th of September. And then it's back-to-back Valencia and Red Bull in the 8th and 15th of October to end out the season. And Valencia, which is pretty much a bike circuit, it's got that lovely portrait of Valentino Rossi on the pit building. So it's a bit different to your traditional normal racetrack, with it being a bike circuit. Corners are a bit more flowing and a bit more sort of longer sweeping corners than your tighter ones. So that's going to be an interesting race to see. Nielsen has been overtaken by Ødegaardsen, and Ødegaardsen now will chase after Solberg, but that is 30 seconds plus at the moment. Solberg did come back out in P5, so he's now got to try and head down after Nordberg in this race. We're waiting for that timing screen to just kind of this is typical ACC. Let the timing screen catch up with itself after the pit stops have been made, and I'm sure that will do so very soon. But this is your race leader. He's just put a lap on the Ferrari behind, and he's been in cruise control, hasn't he? He had that few opening corners where Cruz had him under some pressure. After then, it's been plain sailing.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be. Love that cruise control. Less we say of that, I think the better for him. But no, yeah, Brenham, you didn't even realise it, did you? Oh, those are the best ones in my opinion. But yeah, no, he has been in cruise control, it feels, because he's just had a handle on this race right from the very first corner. Seems to have the pace over the rest of the field. His last 1:34.6. It's almost 1 second faster than Cruz in second place. So Brenham really does have a firm grasp on this race, and here is Cruz then in second position. It's saying they're about 14 seconds back from P number 1. What's that time going to be as he crosses the line? It's 1:35.7 and 1:35.0 for Brenham. So it's 7 tenths lost there for Cruz. And then back to Amundsen. They're about running the same sort of pace. So that gap should be relatively stable. And I would imagine that probably is quite comforting for Cruz, because it means he doesn't have to think too much about a charging car from behind.
That's interesting though, isn't it, as well? Because Cruz pace, it was very good, and it just seems to have dropped off again at a stage of a race where he could have maybe started to try and catch Brenham, where Brenham's getting in a nice comfortable rhythm. Either way, Solberg has just pumped in his fastest, his personal best of the race. So that to me would suggest a fresh pair of tyres, lower fuel. He's able to show us what he can do. Was half a second quicker than the car in front of him, and he's only 8 seconds behind with 15 minutes to go. It's a lot of work to do, but can Solberg, who had a great strategy last week that I believe put him in the top 5, didn't it? Can he do it again to maybe jump into the top 5 here? This is just going to be fascinating to see come the end of this race. But Solberg, do you know what? Great to see the Bentley out here. You don't see the Bentley chose too much now on Assetto Corsa Competizione, with the newer cars coming and with that balance of performance and the way the cars act. So it's great to see 2 Bentleys out here on the grid, and one of them up in that top 5. Really good to see. Not a lot happening out there on the track at the moment. Closest fight then is probably that Norberg Amundsen one, if you can call it a fight. It's about a 4-second gap to the cars, so it's going to be interesting. Again, look, Cruz a 35.8, loses a couple of attempts to Amundsen and Nordberg as well. Cruz wants to be careful here. He's only got 3 seconds to Amundsen, and 2 seconds back is Nordberg, so yeah, wants to be a little careful.
Yeah, he certainly does, but he could also just be taking it easy at this point. I think he's probably realising 14 minutes now left on the clock until we see that checkered flag. He just needs to bring it home at this point, so no silly mistakes. Make sure you pick up that podium at least. And so he might just be managing that gap a little bit back to Amundsen. It's hard to tell. It's not the easiest thing to see from the sort of vantage points that we have. But something tells me that might be what he's doing now. He's just managing that gap a little bit to the car behind. But I think Norberg here probably thinking the opposite. He wants to get on that podium once again. Finished 3rd at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago. Currently in 4th. So he might want to see if he can improve by 1 more. The gap is about 2.5 seconds by the looks of things. 2.5, 3 seconds around about there. I think he's slowly chipping away at it, is he?
Took a tenth out of, a couple of hundredths out of Amundsen last time around. The man who's on a mission at the minute, Solberg's just done another PB of a 35.0. So the problem is he's about 4 4 or 5 seconds behind Norberg. So not impossible, doable with the time frame that is left. But again, has got to keep that sort of at 6-7 tenths a second. Cruz again a 35.7. What does Amundsen do across the line? Loses a tenth, so no improvement for him that time around. And Norberg actually does the exact same lap as Amundsen. So, yeah, just ebbing and flowing all these lap times at the moment. As there you go, look, Solberg now pumps in a third fastest lap. Fresh tyres, fuel depleting. I tell you what, this could be the man to watch here. 9 tenths he's just took out of Norberg on that last lap. Solberg, could again have played a great strategy call. Let's just keep an eye on the end of this race. 12 minutes, 10 seconds left to go. It is going to be a great finale, and this is the exciting part, really, of an hours-long race or an endurance kind of format, is when you get down to this last 20, 15 minutes of the race, this is where you start to see who's doing what. The fact Solberg is on such fresher tyres than the others, even if they change tyres at that, we don't know that information, just proves that Solberg could put himself in a top 4, maybe even potentially that podium position, because he's only 6 seconds off the podium.
Yeah, it's not that big of a gap, is it? And like you say, he took almost a second out of Norberg, and Amundsen on that last lap. So we'll keep a close eye on that one for Solberg, because he is putting in some thundering laps times. Of course, last one was his personal best. I wonder what it will be as we reach the line once again for him. We'll let you know as he does reach it. But here we are back on board with Cruz, and he's just coming up to the back marker, that white Ferrari. I think it was Solberg, if I'm correct. I can't quite fully remember who it is in that car. Yeah, I think we did get it, but here we go. Oh, what's going on there? That's a bit touch and go. He has let him through, though, and he should do with the blue flags, but I thought we might have had a bit of a moment there with Cruz.
Well, he's had such a long start straight where the blue flags are waving to get out of his way. I can't believe what's gone off there. Solberg, by the way, 7 tenths quicker. Once again, he is chipping away at Norberg. He is really starting to bring that time down. This is going to be an interesting watch. But there from Solberg, that was risky stuff to do with the leader. And with 3rd, 4th and 5th, not a million miles away, any big incident there, well, that could have put pave to Cruz's podium and really down to the back marker. Can't stress enough back markers at times, depending on what the laws of the league is, because obviously some might follow the endurance rules where you have to go around the car, some might follow traditional rules where the lap car has to get out of the way. Just stay in one lane is my advice. Let that lead car, make it easy for the lead car to lap you, don't make it too hard. And Solberg just looked like he made it a little difficult there. On board with Norberg, though, who is trying to gain over Amundsen. Lost a couple of hundredths on the last lap, but is losing out to Solberg, by a good chunk of time each lap. That gap is down to 3 seconds. That might just fluctuate as they come through the corners at the back end of this circuit. One thing we do know is Brenham still pumping in 35.1s. That is fantastic pace from him all evening. And there you go, look, Cruz with a 35.9. Probably not up with what happened at turn 1. And Amundsen a 36.0, so he's lost a lot of pace. Norberg with a 35.8. What will Solberg do as he comes to the line? You're kind of looking at, there you go, he took another 8 tenths out of Norberg. So Solberg is on a mission at the minute. Now, Fernando's lost out to Auxland there. Auxland is up into 6th place. Fernando is down to 7th. But this man, he is flying in that Bentley so far. He is on a charge.
Yeah, absolutely. On a charge indeed. Pumping in fastest, well, not fastest lap times, but personal bests for him, and absolutely closing that gap. And by my calculations, when I was doing it just a second ago, we had, I think, about 4 to 5 laps left in this race. If he keeps that pace up of chipping away just under a second a lap, he will very much be on the back of Norberg within the final few seconds. Oh no, he's gone a bit wide into the gravel. I think he'll get away with that one, but that could definitely hamper his time in the next few corners. He just needs to get it back under control, get it back into the groove. Don't let it phase you too much, and carry on charging down your rival, because he is absolutely flying as Norberg now comes up to the back of that white Ferrari.
Is that potentially overdriving there from Solberg? He just looked like he pushed the limits a little too hard. He had the pace over him. Now Solberg gets straight out the way for Norberg. That's exactly what we want to be seeing there. And into that final nearly 8 minutes of this race, as Solberg drops a wheel onto the gravel there. That'll just lose a bit of momentum. Brenham has been fantastic all day. Cruiser 36.3, no traffic around, so lap time's really starting to drop off. There in the background, look, there is Solberg. I do believe that was him in the background. Might have been Westergaard. No, Westergaard's ahead of Solberg. So yeah, that is Solberg in the background we're seeing there. And again, lap times, look at that. Even with Solberg's problem, he only lost a 10th to Nordberg. So just showing, did these three then... I'm wondering now if these three changed tyres with their early pit stop. Because their times have massively dropped off here. Like, really dropped off.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I'm probably guessing at this point this is tyre wear now, potentially hampering their speed because they've all dropped off at the exact same rate. So I reckon they pitted in for fuel, maybe to try and shake up the strategies and throw us off our game, particularly from Cruz. Once again, we were very surprised when he came into the pits, but maybe they haven't gone for that tyre swap and they've still got the original ones on from the start of this race. We've got 7 minutes left until we see the checker flag and then the final lap as well. And yeah, lap times tumbled that time by. Solberg was similarly paced, but we saw the issue he had. It'll be interesting to see what sort of gaps and lap times they set when they come round once again. But at the moment, it is pretty stationary in terms of gaps.
And when you think as well, Brennan pitted more at the middle part of the race. Solberg, we know, towards that latter part of the race. And we believe them to have changed tyres because they've been lapping in the low 35s. They again look Cruz. No traffic, no back markers. 36-1 Amundsen. What's this going to be? A 35.8 from Norberg. It's a better lap time, but then Solberg comes through. And a 35.4. Fresher tyres, fresher rubber. I genuinely think that these three are running on older tyres. This now plays a massive part because who's pushed their tyres hard? Cruz then, definitely in that first part of this race, was tyre safe. Was 100% tyre safe. And that explains why he was so much slower than Brenham in that early stage. Take nothing away from what Brenham done, but Cruz was 100% tyre safe, and I believe to get these tyres to the end. And the interesting thing for me here is, will they lap that? They should last the hour. I doubt they're going to probably pick up a puncher. Running these curbs, though, could just feel a loss of pressure in one of the tyres. They're also going to feel that grip. So if they hit a curb slightly wrong, or on one of the off-camber corners, get a bit of a slide, it's going to be a lot harder to catch. So interesting to see then as we enter the last 5.5 minutes of this race. It's been an absolute cracker once again. Brenham has led from lights to flags, went side by side for the first couple of corners with Cruz, and that was really the pressure he had in the race. After that, it's been plain sailing for him in this one, and he's just been pumping in low 35s in a world of his own. And this is a guy, we're watching a driver now who is in that zone where he's just consistent lap times, lap after lap. Nothing is interrupting that. Nothing is stopping him from pulling away from the rest of the pack.
No, you're quite right. I think when you get into that zone as well, everything around you, it all blurs away, and you don't hear anything else, you don't see anything else. You are 1000% laser focused on what you are doing, making sure you hit those brake markers that you set yourself, making sure you hit those apexes when you're like turning in zones, all of that, and you become hyper focused on just doing one thing, and that is the same braking points, acceleration points, lap after lap after lap. And Brenham has been doing that to a T because his lap times have been so consistent during this race, and it really does show because he's just been an absolute class of the field, pulled away from the rest of them and hasn't looked back ever since. So fair play to him. We've only got 4 minutes left now of this race, not long to go, and Brenham just showing that he really is in a class of his own today. Last time by though, Solberg and the rest, so Cruz, Amundsen, Norberg, he's chipped away a little bit more, but not by as much as we would potentially like. A 135.7 over Norberg's 135.9, so it's a little bit, but by that rate it's not going to be enough.
I feel that his little excursion off the track has cost him. The battle to watch at the moment is Solberg and Erdegaardsen. That is coming down to a 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds at this stage of the race for 11th and 12th place. Them two are having a cracking little squabble at the moment, and it drops now under that second time. I'm looking on the timing screens. That drops to under the second to Erdegaardsen and Solberg. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why. The interval section on the timing app in front of me said it was under a second. Either way, it's not now. One battle that is, though, is now Axel and Fernando. That has also come down towards a second mark, so we'll keep an eye on that one. But either way, the timing screen on my other monitor is, again, just ever-changing. And the gap is now saying 4 seconds, so whatever happened to Erdogan, or if anything, or if he was close enough at all, not sure. But the top 4, top 5 look pretty set. Fernando trying to give this a good go on Axel at the end of this race. 2.5 minutes left to go. Brennan from Cruz, from Amundsen, your top 3. Nordberg, Solberg, your top 5. And Fernando is now on that timing screen, right with Axel here for 6th and 7th place. There he is. 2 laps potentially left. Fernando looking like he's getting a bit racy here at the end.
Yeah, 2 laps sounds about right by the time Brennan comes around. But yeah, Axel and Fernando, I think this is going to be our closest on-board action up until the checkered flag. I think what's confusing you there a little bit, Matthew, is potentially the lap times or the timing tower is from the leader.
Yeah.
So obviously, once again, that concertina effect I did mention briefly earlier goes up and down into corners and out of corners, and that can cause a little bit of confusion, because you can see there now the gaps come right back together, but I doubt that they are that close on circuit. But we can see here very visibly from Fernando's front bonnet, he very much is close to Axel on circuit in that Mercedes. Probably 2 of our favourite livery cars here this evening, isn't it? The mint of that McLaren and the greeny yellow black car of the Mercedes. Very close together, and they've only got probably about a lap left to go racing. I wonder if Fernando can get close enough to make a move.
Well, Brennan's halfway through his lap now, so I think there's one more to go after this. But just looking at Axel at the end of that lap, started to mount a few curves that he probably shouldn't be, dropped a couple of wheels in the grass and gravel, lost look, a good chunk of time, 7/10 of a second he lost on that last lap. So Axel here, I think, has got 2 laps to go. Remember, the final lap of the race is after the leader crosses the line. So this is all down to Brennan, and when Brennan crosses the line, he has got such a gap that he could possibly not try and yield and finish the race here. He's probably going to go for one more. When you're in that zone, you do just go for that final lap. And Brennan here, with 30 seconds to go in the race, is coming towards that start-finish line. I can see on the timing screen now the laps data. He is going to start another lap. He'll cross the line in 2-1. There he is. Crosses the line. Final lap of the race. So Axel has 2 laps. The one he is on and the final lap to stay ahead of Fernando. That is going to be crucial, because that Mercedes is starting to look a little looser on the rear end of the car and is starting to now just struggle ever so slightly.
This could be quite a monster of a defensive drive here for Axel, coming up in the next lap and a half for him. He's going to have Fernando nipping at his heels, and based on the lap times last time around, he did close in by about 7/10 of a second. So if he can do that once again on this lap, that says to me that there is a good chance that he can make the move in that final lap. Oh, a little bit squirrely there, out of 13 for Fernando, whilst the Mercedes here of Axel seem pretty stable and clean. What is the gap and what is the times as they do cross the start-finish line? Axel 1:36.7, 1:36.3 for Fernando. So yes, the one being hunted is the slower of the 2, so he's going to have to put in some good defensive moves here on this final lap.
He is indeed, and this is the final lap for him. But this then is the man who's drove absolutely brilliant today, Brennan, who is going to come to the final to the checkered flag, and is going to win the 2nd race of the season. It's been dominance from the BMW driver today. He rounds turn 14. He's flat out. The Mustang's going to let him through to finish a lap down. Brennan will take a 2nd race win of the season. That is Westergaard to finish P10. Battles happening elsewhere on this lap as well. Cruz is going to come home to take that P2. Solberg, look how tantalisingly close he's got to the back of Nordberg. Axel here is defending for his life over that of Fernando. As the others come to the line now, Cruz will finish in that P2. A twitch from Axel, puts him on the grass, into a spin. Oh, he's tapped the McLaren and Fernando. They're both off, but round into a pirouette goes Axel. Fernando stays going in P6. Bit twitchy though there, and Axel just on the grass, desperation to rejoin. got into a tank slapper that hit the side of the McLaren. Cruz has finished from Amundsen in third, Norberg P4, Solberg in P5, and it is going to be Fernando who will come home to take this P6. He was catching Axel at the very death of this race, and he's got the job done. Great finish for P6. Axel will take P7.
Yeah, he's going to be kicking himself after that, because I felt like he could have just held on for P6 as well. But yeah, we got it a bit out of shape on the exit of turn 10, and then we saw it all unfold before our very eyes. And what a dramatic end to this race as well. But fair play to him. He still has a big improvement from a fortnight ago's finish of 14th. He finishes 7th this time by. So Axel, still a big improvement and a nice points haul as well for him too. But Brenham, class of the field, will say it once again, takes the win. Cruz once again second, and then I think we had Amundsen. He'll happily pick up the final podium spot. So good race from all, and yeah, what a finish that was.
What a finish that was. And if you like that action, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with the racing action at Zolder for the third race. In the halfway stage of the championship, it's going to be an interesting fight to see what Brenham can do, whether he can keep hold of it or what Cruz will do as well. But from a sunny Zandvoort, it's been a great day. Ashley, once again, thank you for joining me in the commentary box. Great action here at Zandvoort. We head to Belgium next for that race at Zolder, a very, very different circuit and a very unique circuit in itself. What are we going to expect there?
For Zolder, once again, I feel like that could be a theme of the circuits that we have in this calendar. They all seem to be quite tight and narrow, which does make overtaking a little bit difficult. But when you do see a move being pulled off, I think it just makes it that little bit more special and a bit more of a spectacle to behold. So I would imagine we will get some similar sort of racing action once again.
It's going to be fantastic to see at Zolder in a fortnight's time. That is the 24th of September. Then we go back-to-back the 8th and 15th with Valencia and then the Red Bull Ring to end off this 5-race championship. It's been fantastic from the BMW boys tonight. 1, 2, 3 and 4 from BMW, but it was Brenham who was the top dog. Doesn't look like. We're just going to wait a little longer, just see if we're going to get any interviews from drivers. I can't see anybody jumping in, so I don't think we're going to be able to speak to anybody tonight. But yeah, fantastic night here in the Netherlands, and Zolder next is going to make it even more special. It's going to be brilliant, I reckon. We've got a fantastic calendar from Zolder to Valencia to the Red Bull Ring. I can't wait to see the action unfold in a fortnight's time. Don't think we're going to get anybody, so I'm just going to wait for our broadcaster. We are going to call that one there, so nobody has came in. Ashley, once again, thank you for joining me in the box. We'll see you all in a fortnight's time. Make sure you join us live for that one on the 24th of September. Until then, goodbye.